What is going on, guys? Today we are back with the Walleye Now Deep Dive, brought to you by FishUSA, where twice a month we go into some of the best presentations working right now all across walleye country. And I'll tell you this, fall is in the air. It's still warm out during the day, but we're starting to get those cool nights. We want to kind of set you guys up for success for some awesome fall fishing. And we have been adding so much content. We are so excited to add so much more content to the Walleye Now app heading into fall. So if you have a big fall walleye fishing trip planned, or you're just getting out on the weekends, whatever it might be, we have everything you need right there on the Walleye Now app, available on Google Play and the App Store to fast track you guys to fall walleye fishing success. Check it out. But today we're going to go into one of the best fall presentations you can fish, the jig and the minnow. We're going to talk about a few different sizes I like, a few different colors I like, maybe catch a couple fish on it, and give you guys a lowdown, one of the best presentations you could be fishing all fall. Fish on right there, hooked up. There we go. Number one, we'll take it. Doesn't feel like a super big fish, but not a bad one for sure. We'll take them like that for sure. Come here, buddy. And this day, I don't mark fall by the calendar day. I'll mark fall by the first day, close to fall, that I catch a fish on a jig and a minnow. And with that being said, fall has now begun. But in all seriousness, you can tell it's coming. It's cooling down. And things are starting to head that direction. We got water temps that are starting to come down a little bit. The nights are a little bit cooler, and this is going to be a very prevalent way to fish here over the course of the next several months. Jig and minnow walleyes. There's just a nice perky, probably 17-incher right there, but that's what we're after. There's another nice fish, and that's a presentation that's going to catch fish absolutely everywhere you're going to go from now all the way into the late fall time frame. All right, so first we're going to talk about kind of the specific jigs I like to use, and colors and weights and all that kind of good stuff that's ultimately going to catch you more fish. Then after that, we'll kind of get into the cadence, how we like to work a jig, and all that kind of stuff for fall walleye fishing success. Now, every walleye fisherman's probably got a ton of different boxes that look like this, absolutely filled with jigs. But where do you start? Well, let's start with weight. Most of the time, if I'm fishing in shallow water, 10 feet and less, and the water's cold late in the fall, I like to go with an 1/8 ounce jig. And some of my favorites, there's a couple of them. One would be like a Kalen's Google Eye jig, gonna look something like that with a glass rattle chamber in the eye. That's been a great jig, comes in several different weights over the years. And the other one that I like to fish a lot is the Kalen's Pendu jig, which is kind of a cool jig with a swinging head on it to give that hook or whatever kind of presentation you have on there a little bit more action, just like that right there. Now, going deeper than 10 feet, I start going to quarter, kind of 10 to 20 feet. Most of the time I'm fishing a 1/4 ounce jig, which would look just like that right there, in that size. And if I'm fishing relatively deep, I'll bump up to like a 3/8 ounce size, which in a Google Eye would look something like that right there, in a great kind of natural color, 3/8 ounce. Or in your Pendu jig, you're looking at a jig that's a little bit more compact, and it looks just like that right there, which is one reason I really like this jig for live bait. Not only do you have the movement, but it's also got a little bit shorter shank on there than the Google Eye, and you guys can kind of see this. I love this one for plastics. It's good for live bait too. This Pendu jig, in my opinion, specializes in live bait fishing. But in colors, I like to keep it pretty simple. One color that's gonna work everywhere for you, gold. It's gonna work in clear water, gonna work in dirty water. If I'm fishing very clear water, I love this hammered nickel one. Catches fish everywhere when the water's clear. Now, if I'm going into dirty water, pretty simple. Generally, I like that gold, like I said, or I'll add a little bit of color. Going into kind of your chartreuses, I call this color parrot. I'm not sure what the actual color is, but you guys can see it's got a little pink, and then the chartreuse, or that straight up kind of fire tiger looking color. But super simple there. Kind of 1/8 ounce all the way up to 3/8, working your way from shallow to deep. What are you rigging on there? If I'm fishing a lake that has generally a lot of eater size walleyes, I'll rig up more of like a fathead size minnow, something that's gonna look about like that right there. And I'll thread it on there just like this, in through the mouth, up through the skull. It's gonna kill the minnow, but you are imparting the action. The minnow is not imparting the action when you're jigging this way. If I'm fishing for potentially bigger fish, or a system that's got bigger fish in it, I'll go to more like a chub size or a walleye sucker size minnow, something that's about like that right there. And generally I'll hook it the exact same way, where I kind of thread it on up through the skull, or in through the mouth and up through the top of the skull, so it looks something just like that right there. It's going to stay on there very well, and you're going to be able to cast it and work the jig very effectively this way. All right, so let's talk about how we like to work the jig real quick. First things first, obviously cast it out. Today we're fishing a little bit deeper water situation, so we're going with a little bit heavier jig, but all the way down to bottom. Once I'm on bottom, I like to kind of give it this pop, keep my rod high and keep my line tight on the fall or a semi-tight line. Go ahead, pop it up again like that, let it hit back down to bottom. Now, the colder that water gets, what you're gonna end up doing is kind of more of like one of these, how it pick it up and let it down real slow, or you're gonna end up kind of essentially popping it a little bit harder. And no way did we just get, look at that, wow. Sometimes it just works out right on cue for you here. This is gonna be a little guy, but there we go. Another little one that interrupted our demonstration, but you can see kind of how effective that is. But essentially, what you want to do is pop that jig up. We'll just kind of do a quick demo here without the possibility of fish catch. Get it out, let it hit bottom, and when the water's warm like this, you know, we're still in this kind of late summer into fall transition, you can still hop it pretty good. Do something that looks something like that, let it hit bottom, pop it again. You can see one thing I'm not doing is like this, letting it fall back down like that on a slack line. You're not gonna tell when you have a bite, and it looks unnatural when it goes whoop, whoop, way up and way down. This pop's kind of a trigger, gets the bait up off bottom. Keeping your rod high keeps that bait penduluming down. Now, as the water gets colder, you're gonna change over and do something that looks a little bit more like this. Just these short, kind of quick pops like this, where that bait's not coming very far off bottom, because as the water cools, that fish's strike zone shrinks up, and we want to keep that bait closer to the bottom. You can still get poppy with it, but keep that bait closer to the bottom, which is where those fish's strike zone is going to be very late in the fall. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed this quick little rundown on one of my favorite fall presentations, the jig and the minnow. It really is a productive way to fish from now until the lakes ice up really late in the fall. But if you guys enjoy highly informational content like this, make sure you get on your phone, go to the Google Play or the App Store and look up the Walleye Now app. It is filled with thousands and thousands of hours of highly informational walleye fishing tips, best walleye fishing locations, little insider details all over the place to put you, the walleye angler, on the fast track to walleye fishing success. And we're very excited to put a ton of information on there this fall all over walleye country. So appreciate you guys watching this Walleye Now deep dive brought to you by FishUSA. If you guys want to pick up a great jig like this, make sure you guys check out fishusa.com and Walleye Now for all the best walleye fishing tips.